was in class in architecture school, my professors, who were all failed architects, said, you know, where you're from isn't relevant to architecture, you know. And I felt in class like blowing out the walls of the building, because I thought it was a lot more interesting what was going on the street outside the building. And I just had this constant feeling that I wanted to just knock the walls of the school down and get out there. And so I guess that's what Ghost is, you know.
The Ghost Lab is essentially a 2-week design build. The first week is designing a building to a particular program and to a particular site. And then the second week is going like heck and building it up and everybody pitching in.
I've been in architecture school for 6 years and we don't actually build anything, like physically. You know, we might build a small-scale model, but a glue connection is not the same as, you know, ramming in a hammer.
It's a really diverse group of people, and the ages range from 22 to 52.
I'm a builder, and I'm not an architect. The main reason that I wanted to come here is that I think that builders and architects should work really closely together.
I wanted to be a designer as a little kid, and I never did it. So I was always in construction and design, kind of on the outskirts. And I decided to go back to school as a 40-year-old. So it's been an interesting road.
My background is in theater. I worked as a set and costume designer for about almost 15 years. The main thing that drove me to architecture was a notion of sustainability. In the theater, we spent a lot of time and effort on coming up with a design or coming up with a production that, you know, only had a 4-week lifespan, and then essentially everything was in the bin. And I thought, I need to reevaluate. I need to leave the isolation of the black box and get a different perspective.
Young people go to architecture school with their head screwed on right. They say, I want to learn about making things, I want to learn about the environment, I want to learn about community, and architecture is a great way to integrate those things. And in architectural school, we're getting a long ways away from that sometimes. And so it was really to tell the young people that they're right about what they think it's about. And so that they have some antibodies to either the flaky professors or the soulless jobs that they might find themselves in when they graduate. And so it's a way to say, no, you can do it. You can hang on to your ideals, you can stick to your principles, and there's a kind of economy to that too. Every time we do Ghost, it's a chance to get down to the kind of fundamentals of what we do, why we do it. And it's kind of a way of reminding us of what's important in architecture. The simple things, the simple fundamental things are what's important. And so, you know, it makes us more disciplined in the way we practice afterward, in the normal practice that we have. So it started in 1994 as a Dalhousie University course in Halifax, where I teach. We built the first Ghost project for $800. So it grew from a kind of informal little thing to this international lab with students, professors, architects from all over the world coming.
It's a 2-week program. 1 week we do intensive design, where we sit in the studio and everybody talks about what we want this thing to look like, you know, discuss problems and solutions. And then the second week we just get right into it.
You work collaboratively for a week and then you build whatever it is that you came up with.
The Ghost this year is a boathouse. It was initially a place where fishermen would go for months at a time, and they would spend away from their families, so it's got a very significant role in the culture here. This is a little different. This is a kayak storage, but we have used a lot of precedents out there to influence this work. Well, if you look at this building, it's very plain, and it's not very flashy, which it mirrors those buildings exactly. They were simple, they were meant to keep the water out, keep the rain out, and keep you somewhat warm, and that was it. And so that's kind of the theme that this boathouse we want to kind of capture.
We're really lucky here. Like Brian has this farm that he does these projects on, and there's a style to the type of work that Brian does as an architect that makes it accessible to the design build program. The vernacular and the wood building, that makes it easier for rookies to come around and say, okay, so it's a hammer and nail here. There's a lot of other types of architecture that wouldn't really lend themselves to this type of program.
So this is the lake. The boathouse will be next to a beautiful saltwater beach here. It's a narrow little piece of land. We'll preserve all the open land and kind of reinstate what was a historic fishing village, which was here for 400 years. We think of this as the public face of the project because that's a big public beach. In Nova Scotia, the beaches are public. So there, people get on the backbone of the beach there and they look here at the world of the crazy architect. So that, I consider the facade of the project that faces the public side. And then that's also south. And then the north side is the more private side of our farm and all of that, and tucked into the hillside. So there's a definite kind of private back and a public front. So you'll see in the design of the project, this side is really open and generous. This will be a place to sit in the sun. So this boathouse will be the first permanent building here. And within a year or two, there will be a couple more houses. So everybody's thinking about how this relates to the landscape, but also how it relates to future buildings and other buildings in the valley here. So really the whole valley is one house, and this is a room in the house. I see the building of buildings like a farmer as a cultivating influence to actually improve the land, not to consume it, but it's a fine line. It goes, it's not a relativistic paradise where people just kind of free associate and everybody's designing it all at once. There is a hierarchy. There are people here with more experience, with less experience, different kinds of experience. And they lead different parts of the conversation, and other people have various levels of experience within all of that, and they find their position, they stretch themselves. I see that column as part of a shear system. I think what's working here really well is wind loads to put this wall into this shear wall where we want them and into the ground ultimately. We need to build up that so it's right the way you're drawing it. I like it. I really like it.
We were thinking maybe that flap should open. Just that one.
This way?
No, just that corner.
Having this corner
Operate.
Yeah, like those doors in Jim's.
Sweet, eh? Oh, no,
You like those hinges, those.
Detail.
You like those.
It's all detail.
Okay, So here's the peninsula. Here's the boathouse. Place to sit and look out to the beach. So that's the first notion. Then it got to be this. We realized that there's so much complexity in the construction and structures that unless we just assumed the building was a box, it was too complicated. So the idea I guess we have now is that the building is basically a box, and the inside is very complex and the outside is very simple. We say that's a kind of social democratic Canadian thing, that you present a simple outside, it belongs to everybody, and you can be wild and crazy on the inside. The schema, which started here, has become this. So the yellow are lantern-like places that are decks. We have all these pivot doors facing south, facing Europe. More cellular spaces versus the more light spaces. This dark space, it's a room without light in it, except the only light bounces off the lake, comes up, so it's kind of like a Zen space where the light comes into that room from the floor. So I guess that's the kind of update.
it now.
Just take
This is the model.
Started by Josh, finished by Dieter.
I'd say framed. It was a team effort.
It was.
Whether it was equal or not is none of my business.
Collaborative process.
Whether my half was better than his.
You forgot to tell me? Yeah.
It's pretty sweet when these open up like that. Just
Hey, you're being
parallel.
You know, Rich, we can design your house.
There's a diagonal, right?
It's a lot bigger.
And the 7 foot is the right.
That's the perfect.
Squeeze in it, yeah. Well, I learned that a long time ago. You gotta frame the landscape. Like right here,
Yeah.
there's almost no sky, so the landscape looks bigger than life.
Yeah.
If you walk over there, the landscape doesn't look like much. But here, framed, it's
Yeah.
Everest, you know. It feels bigger.
That's great.
And I think the ceiling just.
Yeah.
I don't want them like that. Yeah. If you ain't gonna call it. It's bright. Kind of like that.
I'm not quite sure what that means.
It's a gummy bite.
No teeth. No teeth combined.
Gotcha.
No teeth
Now I got
combined.
it. Now I got it.
How does that translate as a learning moment? That was a teachable moment, but I don't get it.
Some of the ghosts have been recyclable. We started with teardowns. You know, once we build them, we tear them down and recycle the bits and use them for the next one. Then we decided somewhere along the line that this was becoming a kind of institution and it needed some infrastructure. So then we started some ghost projects, making the cabins, making this studio, and then last year making the octagonal barn. So we switched to kind of more permanent buildings, higher stakes. You know, some of the participants said, can we make some real architecture? Now, I have to live with the results of that. And it's a bit scary because the land is valuable. Don't want to mess it up. Don't want to be doing frivolous things with the landscape. Now, the boathouse that we're doing this year is something in between.
Today we're hoping that we will get all the floor decked in, that we'll have some walls stood up, and so that we're ready to start actually, you know, showing the building.
Is that what's left to do in the world of parapet? Is just this whole section through here?
A lot of people don't have a lot of experience, and so they sort of start slow. You know, it takes them 20 times to get a nail in the floor like me yesterday, and then some people, you know, they just set it once and slam it in, and so you kind of learn as you go, and I think that's sort of what's so great about it. There's a lot of trust.
It's a master builder program, so it's all about taking advantage of, you know, gaining the knowledge from people who have done it for years and years and years.
One of the coolest things about being on a job site and doing something like this is, you know, even I think it was yesterday, a handful of people were like, man, I worked so hard today, I don't feel like I got anything done. It's like, okay, stop for a second and look at that thing. Every day you have this record of, you know, oh my gosh, we started out with nothing, and, you know, it keeps getting higher and higher and more filled in, so that's extremely gratifying.
This is kind of the push to the end, you know, so everybody kind of has a fairly clear idea of where they fit in the team. We just kind of work it out as we go, obviously, but, you know, it feels pretty good.
My only issue is the ceiling height in here. I really think the ceiling height needs to be higher.
Okay.
If they're going in real high, okay, right up to...
We're going up high.
Well, originally we had it high, Brian must have it low. But I reckon if it goes low, it'll just take you outside the room. See how it's high at the moment?
I know. Yeah. If it's a 16-foot high bench, you know, anybody that's over 5'8" is going to hit their head on the ceiling.
So it's okay to go up to go down?
And then
you want to go up to go down then?
Yeah.
Okay. You want to manage getting that wall going? Yeah. Because the first roof joist for that will sit on that wall. Don't nail anything yet.
We had to consider the climate, where the sun rises and where it sets, the ocean on one side, the lake, the tides, the proximity of the building to the water. So we didn't just like come up with an idea and plop it on this property. We looked at everything.
What I've realized, and I think Brian has made it quite clear, is that architecture is a dialogue, and it's a notion of storytelling and narrative. And what's been amazing about this whole experience is how he draws in the site into the narrative.
I'm very sad that this is ending. It's great to see something from start to finish. Seeing this whole thing come to fruition is just fantastic. It's going to be hard to leave this place.
Back to you. No matter what I do, I will always take you away to the horizon. And soon this is what we know. And you gonna know the truth tonight.
We had lots of ups and downs over the week, things that worked out really well, some things that were challenges that we had to overcome. But you know, all in all, it's been a great process, and just being able to complete as much as we did, I feel pretty proud of that.
I think a lot of people go day to day without really thinking about their surroundings, and since studying architecture, it's really made me appreciate the way that culture works and the way that people work together and how we live.
This year, every one of these buildings here was some sort of inspiration. I mean, you know, looking at this, seeing what's capable, what we've done, detailing, why these buildings are here. And so they all influence the next Ghost. So next year, the boathouse and all these buildings will influence what they do next, and so on. And so it's a building that's like dense kind of architectural fabric.
Close your eyes and imagine a lost village at the end of the earth. Close your eyes and you'll smell the flowers in the gardens where they were, and you'll smell the clothing on the clothesline. Imagine a foggy night, midsummer night, and imagine the burning ship on the horizon. So these ghosts were always things that lit up in the fog. So all the ghosts have kind of been lit up so far, become lanterns in a way, kind of apparitions.